green eggs and ham teaches the value of trying new things and not judging things we're unfamiliar with. The Lorax teaches us about the importance of caring for creation. Horton Hears a Who teaches us that every person has value. The Grinch teaches us about the spirit of kindness. The Cat in the Hat teaches us the balance between imagination and boredom and responsibility. All of Dr. Seuss's stories are like that. They're cute and they're funny, but they all carry some form of moral teaching within them. And one that is pretty needed or relevant to today's world is the lesson we learn from his story, The Sneetches. And it goes like this. On the beaches lived two kinds of bird-like creatures, the star-bellied Sneetches and the plain-bellied Sneetches. The ones with stars thought they were better than everyone else. As a result, the starless ones were pushed aside and forgotten about and treated as less than. Then along came a fellow named Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and he built a machine that could put stars on the bellies of the starless Sneetches, for a fee, of course. So the plain-bellied Sneetches paid up, and suddenly everyone had stars. But then the star-bellied Sneetches were furious, because how could they tell who was special anymore? So McBean made a new machine that could take stars off for an even higher fee. And soon everyone was running in and out and in and out and in and out of the machines until no one could remember who was who anymore. And at the end, Mr. McBean left with all the money. But the Sneetches learned their lesson. Dr. Seuss writes, they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches, and no kind of Sneetch is the best on the beaches. Prior to this enlightening of their minds, the star-bellied Sneetches viewed themselves as more important, more valuable. The story's not just a children's story, it's the story of the world today. We live in a world that still puts stars on certain people and none on others. The world says some lives matter more than others. Some lives are wanted or more desirable than others, and some are seen as inconvenient. Some lives are seen as productive, and other lives are seen as a burden. Some lives get attention, and other lives get ignored. That's the same lie that fuels hatred, that fuels racism, that fuels poverty, that fuels war, and all the other ills that take the form of violence against another person. It's the lie that says human value depends on something, whether it's age or ability or appearance or usefulness, instead of relying on the one thing, the one who truly matters, God. Dr. Seuss's story, it's not until the end that the Sneetches learn that stars don't matter, that every Sneetch is a Sneetch. And the Christian message, the respect for life message of the Catholic Church, which we've been hearing about all of October, goes even deeper. It says that every person is a person created by God, redeemed by Christ, and destined for eternity. And the only mark that matters is the one God himself places on us, his image and his likeness. Can't be added, can't be removed, can't be erased, not by the world, not by a court, not by the government, and certainly not by us. Every child in the womb has it. Every elderly person in a nursing home has it. Every documented and undocumented immigrant has it. Every person gunned down by gun violence has it. Every prisoner has it. Every addict has it. Every person with disabilities has it. Every person who is experiencing homelessness has it. Every progressive and every conservative has it. Everyone who thinks and acts and lives and looks differently than we do has it. All bear that same star, and that star is the divine image of God that is in their soul. And when we forget that, when we treat some lives as disposable or optional, we become like the Schrantz, paying a high price for our pride, losing sight of who we really are. In the first reading, Moses stands on a hill, holding up the staff of God while the people battle Amalek. And when Moses' arms grow tired, Aaron and Hur hold them up until victory is won. That's what the church must do today. Because in some ways, in many ways, we're in a battle. Not with swords, but with a culture that devalues life at all stages and at all levels. And we need to hold each other up so that truth and love don't collapse from fatigue. In the second reading, St. Paul says, proclaim the word. Be persistent, whether it's inconvenient or convenient. In our world today, that's a line for Respect Life Month if there ever was one. It's not always convenient to defend life. It's not always popular to speak up for the unborn or for the sick or for the elderly, to care for the dying, to protect and defend the immigrant, to protect life from needless gun deaths, and to call for peace in war-torn countries halfway around the world. But that's exactly what the disciples of Jesus would do, though. They would persist, inconveniently at times, because the truth doesn't change with the political poles. And in the gospel, Jesus tells us the parable of the persistent widow who keeps pleading for justice. If even an unjust judge eventually gives in, how much more will the just and loving God answer the prayers of his people? And so we must not give up either. Not in prayer, not in witness, and not in defense of life. All life. Not just the one particular group or political idea that we want to rally behind, but the defense of all life. Jesus ends that gospel with a question. When the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? It's not a rhetorical question, it's for us to answer. Will he find a church still speaking up when the world would rather be silent? Will he find Christians who defend all life at every stage, from the young to the elderly, from the natural-born citizen to the documented and undocumented immigrant, to the prisoner, to the homeless? Will he find a faith that doesn't just say that life is sacred with their lips, but actually lives it out in action? Because faith that doesn't move us to defend the defenseless isn't really faith. It's only a sentiment. Real faith looks like Aaron and Hur holding up tired arms. Real faith looks like the widow refusing to quit. Real faith looks like the people who march, who volunteer, who pray, who feed, who forgive. That's the faith Jesus will recognize when he returns. At the end of the Schrantz, they finally see the truth. A Schrantz is a Schrantz, and no kind of Schrantz is the best for the beaches. That's what our world needs today. a conversion of heart, to see that people are people and no kind of person is worth more than another. Not the strong more than the weak, not the born more than the unborn, not the healthy more than the sick, not the rich more than the poor, not the citizen more than the undocumented. When we see with God's eyes, we stop sorting people by stars and start seeing the star he placed in every human heart. And so today, in this Eucharist, in the very sacrament of life itself, we bring before God all those starless sneetches that the world forgets about. The unborn, the frightened mother, the isolated elderly, the mentally ill, the refugee, the prisoner, the addict. And we say with our lives, with our witness, with our prayer, that you matter, that you are loved, that you belong because God made you. Christ died for you, and the Spirit lives in you. That is the gospel of life. That is the truth the world needs to hear, even when it's inconvenient to say so. And so we hold our arms high. We lift each other up. And we pray without ceasing. And we never, ever stop fighting for life. Because in the end, there are no star-bellied sneetches or plain-bellied sneetches. There are only children of God. And every single one of them has value, is loved, is sacred, and is worth defending. Let us profess our faith.